guys, today I am going to be sharing with you this wonderful recipe I got from the Healthy Vegan. So, shout out to him. Now, I have to admit that I did alter the recipe ever so slightly, but it did come out just as delicious nonetheless. So, in a bowl, I combined all my dry ingredients. That is 2 cups of almond flour, 1 and 1/4 cup of oat flour, and I did grind my oat flour myself in a blender. 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon, 1.5 teaspoons of ginger, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder. So in the bowl, I mix these ingredients together as you can see, and I make sure everything is very well incorporated, and then I put that to the side. Now, this is how I altered the recipe. In his recipe, he actually uses 2 cups of apples, and I use 2 cups of pears because this is what I had this day at my house. I used Bartlett pears for this recipe, and also his recipe, he only uses cinnamon, and I also use ginger because the ginger pear combination just goes well together and I like it. So I chopped 3 whole Bartlett pears to get 2 cups of diced pears. Then another way I altered the recipe was that instead of doing the streusel nut butter topping that he does, I actually used chopped walnuts. This was just easier, faster for me. I'm going to be honest. And also, I didn't have any nut butter in my pantry. So I just went with the walnuts. So once that was done and I finished chopping all of those things, I got all of my wet ingredients together. So that is 1 cup of pitted dates. I also have in there 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Now, this is really important because this actually combined with the baking soda is going to be your leavening agent for the cake, and this helps the cake's consistency not to be so dense. This is the third way I altered it. I used 2 tablespoons of agave syrup, and I used organic agave syrup. Now, he doesn't use any other sweetener but the dates in there, but I decided to use that. You're also going to need a plant-based milk. I used oat milk, but you please feel free to use any plant-based milk you want to use. Then I added a teaspoon of vanilla. Now, in his recipe, I believe it's a 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla, but at this point, I was just going with the flow. I gotta be honest. And so I blended all the wet ingredients together, and then I combined it in the with the dry ingredients. And you're gonna notice I blended those wet ingredients until the dates were fully blended. I also in the bowl put in half of the walnuts that I had already pre-chopped, and then the 2 cups of pears. So you're just going to mix all of your ingredients in together. Please be careful not to overmix the ingredients because you don't want it tough, okay? And so at this point I preheated my oven to 350. I actually greased the pan with some coconut oil. I didn't see in his when he did his coffee cake where he greased his pan, but I just didn't want mine to stick to the pan. So I guess I was a little overcautious. I wasn't that sure that it wouldn't stick without greasing it, so I did use some coconut oil. And then lastly, I scattered the rest of the walnuts on the top of my coffee cake. I put it in the oven, baked it for 25 to 30 minutes, and this is the final product, guys. And it was so good. When I tell you this cake was so good, it was so good. And the best thing about it, there were no eggs used. And with the price of eggs these days, this is a perfect substitute. Have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.